You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Welcome to Force 13 Live. This is the latest that we're looking at, or ought to be looking at right now. The minute you can see the bottom bar is telling you all the latest information on Cyclone Trevor and Cyclone Veronica, which are both approaching landfall in different parts of Australia this morning. Let's just get this imagery. Can we get this imagery up? Fingers crossed. Okay, it's a bit cut off, but there is some imagery. Veronica on the left-hand side. You can see Western Australia there. It's about to move into, well, it will take some time yet, but it's going to arrive in the Pilbara region of Western Australia, probably late tonight into tomorrow. Of course, the outer edges of it are already moving in. Towards the east there, you can see Trevor, and look how bulky the cloud tops are, although there is a big deficiency towards the southwest. The ATCF system upgraded it not so long ago to 120 miles per hour. That's about 190 kilometers per hour, and a pressure of around 952 millibars. We're here with you this morning, as it is Australian time, here at Force 13 HQ. It's still quite late in the evening. We're just past 8 o'clock UTC. My name's Nathan Foy, and joining me tonight is David, and hopefully we'll be able to hear from David round about now. Find the button. David, hello.
Good evening, Nathan, and welcome to the viewers on what is a severe weather day for the Western Australian people. I think there's around 31,000 people in the path of Tropical Cyclone Trevor and Veronica, and Tropical Cyclone Trevor heading for landfall southwest Gulf of Carpentaria. And there's quite a bit of information, and the tracking has caught my eye. It looks like as a deep tropical depression or low, it's going to possibly recurve towards the east-southeast.
Both of these storms are Category 4 on the Australian scale, according to the latest from the Bureau of Meteorology. Let's see if we can see those now. Here is the track forecast for Trevor. David, they're expecting a Category 4 landfall. They're expecting that to occur around lunchtime.
Yes, the Bureau of Meteorology is saying sometime Saturday. I worked out it was about 260 miles off the case at about 1900 hours Australian Eastern Standard Time. Bureau of Meteorology has quite a few advisories in place, and Trevor, Nathan, is currently located. Actually, the headline reads, "A very destructive call of severe tropical cyclone Trevor is approaching the coast between Port MacArthur and the Northern Territory Queensland border." The Tropical Cyclone Warning Centre up there in Perth is currently doing advisories, and quite a bit of area under the cyclone warning. Nathan,
which one are we referring to still? Trevor,
Allangoola in the Northern Territory to Burketown in Queensland, inland parts of the Carpentaria District, the Barkly District, Northwest Gulf Country, including Groot Island, Mornington Island, Borroloola, Robertson River, Wollongong, MacArthur River, Cape Crawford, Creswell Downs, Brunette Downs, and Doomadgee. Doomadgee is a Indigenous Australia or Australian community. Brunette Downs, now they are looking forward to some rainfall. I'm not sure what the rainfall scene is for that area. I think it's a cattle station, and
Okay.
the name rings a bell. I can.
All right, looking at Veronica, right now the warning zone is from Wallal Downs in the east to Mardy in the west. There's also a watch zone extending inland, including Marble Bar and Nullagine, I think it is.
So category 4 on landfall, and it looks like it may not get to category 5. Nathan, your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, Veronica was forecasted to become Category 5 on the Australian scale by the Bureau. No longer, and it's, I mean, the eye wall, let's just see if we can get that imagery back. The eye wall's looking a bit sloppy, and I don't see it getting its act together to become a Category 5 on the Australian scale, at least by the Bureau's reckoning. Even though I think it already did earlier on in its life. Just that the bomb hasn't agreed with me on that one. But I don't think, put it this way, I don't think the bomb will upgrade it to a Category 5 before landfall.
And both systems are clearly visible on the radar, and Rhodey Shores has central pressure 998.1 millibars. They've got 33 knots, gusting 41, and that's to the northeast of where Veronica is currently located.
163 miles from Port Hedland at the latest frame.
And they have it at 1001.5 millibars, only 15 knots, gusting 21 knots.
Okay. I don't want to miss any bases, so I want to start again from the beginning here and cover everything, David. We have 3 systems, significant systems, active right now. You can only see one of them on this particular screen, so let's move on. This is the latest floater imagery of Trevor. The eye, you can see, is quite visible. It looks quite a bit better on this unenhanced infrared than it does on the enhanced versions. You can see quite clearly on the enhanced versions that the eye is very shallow. It's not a pinhole. Well, not really. It's very shallow. The eye wall to the south and west is very ropey. Hardly existent at all, really. I don't think it's going to strengthen much more. Veronica looks like this. You've already seen it just now. Invest 96W is still a thing, by the way. Well, not anymore by the looks of things. So is Savannah. Oh, goodness me. But this is the new storm that's formed in the Indian Ocean, Joaninha, and I believe quite a few people will be watching for that as well, who regularly frequent our streams. You can just about make out to the south of Joaninha, it's Rodrigues, part of Mauritius. Mauritius itself off towards the southwest there. Mauritius could get a little bit of rainfall. Rodrigues could get the centre of Joaninha, and it could be a significant cyclone by the time it arrives, another potential impacting storm in the southwest Indian Ocean. This is the Meteo France track for that storm, calling for a direct landfall on the island of Rodrigues, and that would be on Monday. As of right now, a weak tropical storm. It is getting its act together. As we've already seen, the Bureau of Meteorology tracks Trevor first of all there. These will cycle throughout our show tonight, and there's Veronica. Computer models look like this. This was the latest for Trevor. Pretty good agreement overall in what the models want from it, at least out to about 3 or 4 days, David. And then there seems to be a split on whether it turns back on itself and goes back into the Northern Territory, or whether it heads towards you.
I remain interested to see what it does as a tropical low or deep depression, but I'm also thinking of what the Joint Typhoon Warning Centre said yesterday, that Veronica could come onto the coast. The rainfall item is critical, and then it could track back offshore. Now, I haven't checked the latest from the centre, but that is something I'll be keeping an eye on. And Nathan, something else caught my eye yesterday. It looks like the Bureau of Meteorology has put a radar station on Mornington Island.
Oh, right. See if you can dig that one out, and we'll have a chat about it later.
Yeah.
Let's just get on to Veronica here. The models, a lot of stalling in the model forecast for Veronica. But eventually the storm moving out towards the west, over Western Australia. I believe we're also now joined by Justin.
Yep.
We'll get to you shortly and your thoughts on the storms pretty soon.
Okay.
This is Joaninha, and you can see there again, there is some outliers in that model spread, taking it towards Mauritius and Reunion, but it doesn't seem as though it's going to track exactly in that direction. These are the Atlantic pictures that we don't want to look at really, because they're not very interesting. And this is the South Atlantic, which could still see that new system forming starting on Saturday. We'll wait and see Saturday evening Australian time. We'll see whether that happens or not. And just a note, the latest death toll from Cyclone Idai has risen again today to 638 as far as we know. And that number could still continue to rise throughout the following days. At least 2,000 are injured, and the flooding crisis continues. Not just the cyclone impact, but an unfolding humanitarian disaster. Justin, I'll let you pick up with whatever you want to run with right now.
Well, I believe that South Atlantic system is could be pretty interesting. Especially since we haven't seen really anything from bases. I don't really know if you could consider that even a basin or not. And as for Trevor, I'm pretty surprised that it intensified this much before landfall. And I was thinking it was going to be a little weaker before.
You did,
landfall,
but well,
it slowed down.
The forecasts weren't saying it was going to be weaker.
Oh. Well, I was running on my own decisions.
Oh, well, that didn't work, did it? Okay, well, we'll get those.
It didn't work. It really doesn't always work.
No, this graphic here isn't working, so we'll flip back to this imagery here of Trevor. David, you in flow there as well. Do you have anything else for us about that radar, perhaps?
Yes, I posted a link to you privately and also in the studio here. However, Nathan, I want to go back to the satellite imagery of Trevor. And something caught my eye whilst, or just before you called me earlier. Satellite imagery showed the vacant eye.
Yep.
And I'm just going to read this out because the Joint Typhoon Warning Centre's current advisory. Tropical Cyclone Trevor is undergoing an eye wall replacement cycle with a smaller inner, and this Trevor, small inner eye and moat features surrounded by a large secondary eye wall. I actually caught that on the visible.
If you can get some radar imagery up, that would be much obliged, because I'm actually unable to do that here. But that would be very helpful to us all, I believe. If you've got any comments or questions for us whilst we're on the air tonight, as it is here in the UK, this morning in Australia, please send us a message on the YouTube feed right now. Tag Force13 all in text, and it will pop up for us. That's half the reason why we're here, to answer your questions. And are you streaming on Facebook, David?
Yes, we are live. All systems go. So we're on Facebook, and hopefully sometime this morning we might have a look at the International Space Station flying over Veronica.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see if that happens. I just want to read out some of the graphics that you see every so often, periodically on the left-hand side. The chances of storm force winds, in case you didn't pick up on them yet. For Trevor, it's 95% at Borroloola, 90% on Mornington Island, 85% at Port Roper, 78% at Tennant Creek, 56% at Alice Springs, and 26% at Mount Isa. Cyclone Veronica, chances of storm force winds are as follows: Pardue 45%, Port Hedland 85%, Roebourne 80%, Karratha 75%, Dampier 75%, Onslow 70%, Exmouth 50%, Coral Bay 50%, and Carnarvon 35%. Chances of storm force winds from Joaninha right now: 80% chance in Rodrigues, and 45% chance, possibly not tropical, at Isle Amsterdam and Isle St. Paul. The estimated rainfall from these storms are as follows. This is based on model projections. We expect the following from Cyclone Trevor in millimetres: Borroloola 190, Port Roper 60, Tennant Creek 80, Alice Springs 120, Mount Isa 50, Birdsville 170, Quilpie 240, Charlottesville 180, and Brisbane, David, 160 millimetres expected from Trevor.
Yes, I'm just waiting for the Bureau of Meteorology to update their rainfall information. But
well, this next one might be more interesting. Cyclone Veronica, Pardue 120 millimetres expected, but at Port Hedland 490 millimetres of rainfall expected there at the minute, if model projections are correct, and it's pretty short range, so you would suggest that they're going to be pretty good at this.
And I believe Port Hedland is already getting some decent rainfall. I did see the total.
Other locations, pretty low amounts. I'll go through them. Roebourne 50, Karratha 50, Dampier 40, Onslow 30, Exmouth 30, Coral Bay 20, and Carnarvon 80 millimetres of rain. And from Cyclone Joaninha, because we are covering 3 systems today / tonight, Rodrigues 420 millimetres expected. At Flack in Mauritius 50 millimetres of rain. Port Louis 40. And that concludes all those statistics. But right now we're looking at the first storm that will make landfall out of the 3, assuming all 3 of them do, and that is quite an assumption to make at this stage. Trevor, which is due to arrive on land, the centre of the storm, around noontime local time today, just over the border in the Northern Territory, not far from Queensland. You can quite clearly see on this imagery that the eastern and northern sides of the storm would appear to be the strongest. It's where the highest cloud tops are. South and west looks a little bit frail and weak, possibly partly due to land interaction, maybe dry air. But it does appear to be, I mean, I'm just looking at those late frames, not sure. There's really very little time for further intensification, and I don't think it will get to Category 5 on the Australian scale, but Category 4, David.
Yes, category 4. I'm just bringing up some information so when I do the screen share.
Sure. Let's get some questions if we have any. You can send them in. Justin the Weather Boy says, looks like Veronica's eastern eye wall is giving up. Well, that's interesting because I was more intrigued at looking at the western side of Veronica's eye wall. Let's chance this map now and see if we can get to it. Let's see here. There's Veronica. I'm not seeing much evidence of the eastern eye wall giving up unless you're seeing something different on radar, which I hope to get from David shortly. It would appear to me that there's at least a dry air slot coming in the western side there, in from the south, which will limit any further strengthening. Just an interesting fact, I don't think there's ever been a Category 5 landfall in Western Australia. Storms...
Wait, did Monica make a Category 5 landfall?
That wasn't in Western Australia.
Oh.
That was in the Northern Territory. But some real beasts like Orson, Joan, John, Ian, storms like that, they, for my money, peaked as Category 5s. Not all of them, but some of those that I mentioned. Orson in particular. Yet still managed to weaken quite substantially before they made their landfall on the eastern coast of Australia. On the western coast of Australia. I'm getting it all wrong tonight. We've got some radar actually now from David. Thank you.
And that is for Monica. And you clearly see the eye.
We'll keep going through some questions. What was Veronica's peak wind speed? That's a good question. I think we had it at about 145 miles an hour at peak. Somewhere around there. It will have to be pending reanalysis, but I don't think it would be too far wrong with that. That's mid-range Category 4 on the Saffir-Simpson scale. Can Trevor significantly strengthen before landfall? As I explained earlier, probably not. And an interesting unrelated question really, but will the Atlantic hurricane season be El Nino or La Nina? Well, those conditions affect the whole world, not just the Atlantic. But we are looking at a slight El Nino. There's some satellite imagery of Trevor there. Will Hurricane Trevor, Cyclone Trevor, be retired, even though nobody lives in the direct path of the cyclone? That's an interesting question, one you'll have to take up with the Bureau of Meteorology, I think. And Jake Bauer says, Yasi was the last Category 5, Australian 5 landfall on the eastern side of Australia. Are you sure about that?
Yasi was 2011.
11. So not Cyclone Ita and not Cyclone Marcia, at least on the Australian scale?
Monica was a Cat 5, wasn't she?
Yes, that was in the central area though, near the top end. These storms, of course, aren't there. We did think at first, we wondered whether Trevor might have been a Monica. What are we looking at here? Mornington Island. Could you zoom out a bit?
Mornington Island, and the rainfall is up over 123 millimetres.
Could we get a bit of a zoom out on there? On the radar scope, 256.
Oh, sorry, 256.
There's the centre of Trevor on the left-hand side.
Oh, that's a fair way west, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, what are those islands near the centre of the storm, David?
They're those. Yes, I'll go do something here.
There. Oh yes. Well, I don't know the names of them either. I'm not an Aussie.
Come on. Let's go to work.
Okay, David's consulting his map and his charts. I mean, you know, everyone's geography knowledge can have flaws. Let's go back to the latest imagery whilst David looks at those. We're looking at Cyclone Veronica. You know, I'm surprised no one slipped and called it Monica yet, considering they're such similar names.
Actually, there was a bit of a blooper in one of my updates.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Yeah, I said Savannah instead of Veronica.
Good lord, that's an even worse
Yes,
blunder.
that is a...
Let's not go there.
No, we won't. Okay, there we are.
Or I'll never confuse Veronica and Monica.
They're called what?
Don't worry.
Sorry. Go, Max.
Never mind.
It's Justin. It's Vandalin Island, is it?
Yeah, and Centre Island and North Island and West Island.
There we go. I've just been told it's the Pelu Islands, if that's correct. I don't know. That's a viewer. We'll take your word for it. But there we are. Uninhabited, I assume, or at least very sparsely habited. There are some small towns nearby, Borlula to the south. And I don't know where David's going now.
That's the next... so, landfall just to the southeast of that. I don't know whether it's a river.
Okay. And we're back looking at more imagery of Cyclone Trevor. That's probably going to make landfall pretty soon. Let's see if we can get some visible Himawari 8 imagery now. Not yet. We're a bit early on that. If and when we do get the imagery, first visible images of the day, we'll cross over to them as well. So there we are. That's the latest. If you've got any particular questions, please send them in, and we'll be able to answer them. Hopefully quite succinctly. 3 storms that are impacting southern hemisphere locations right now. Cyclone Trevor, which is due to make landfall in a short while. Cyclone Veronica, which will probably make landfall on Saturday night into Sunday morning. And Cyclone Joaninha, which has formed in the southwest Indian Ocean and could become a significant threat to not La Reunion, to Rodrigues. David?
Yes, I think I should mention to the viewers that the islands, Great Island, closer to the western Gulf of Carpentaria region, Northern Territory, the Australian Defence Force evacuated. I think it's about 1,700 people. We were allowed to use one of the...
Yeah, if you'd like to bring that up at some point, that would be great too.
Yeah.
We're going to take a short break here at Force 13 HQ. We'll be back in a few minutes' time. Just a couple of minutes break here, and we'll be back with more information on everything. Send in more of your questions. We're staying on the air, our live streaming service. Stay tuned.
Hey, it's Jack, giving just a new update on the Patreon page. We're rewarding loyalty and contributions in a new way now that we've been thinking about for some time. Now when you contribute at least $50 through your total lifetime, regardless of tier, you get your own individual storm animation made by our team. This is regardless of tier once again, so even if you donate $1 per month, after 50 months you'll get your own individual storm animation. But we do have all these other tiers and tons of other benefits to go along. If you want to get your own individual storm animation or help contribute to the project personally, feel free to use the link in the description or type in your browser www.patreon.com/Force13.
Along with the main Force 13 channel for our world audience, we have regional channels, Force 13 AU and Oceania, Force 13 UK and Ireland, and Force 13 US and Caribbean. These channels all need your support and involvement, so if you're in those areas, please check them out. And hopefully we'll get to see more of that a little bit later on. My name's not David Tones, by the way. That was David that was speaking before the end of the half-hour mark. Maybe some more ISS imagery on the way today. That's also not Cyclone Trevor. Who's doing this? This is Cyclone Veronica that we're looking at, heading towards the west coast of Australia. That's what we're covering right now. As well as Trevor, we're sort of trying to keep both of them in check in our updates here, as well as Cyclone Joaninha, which has formed in the southwest Indian Ocean. Really, it's sort of up to you to drive the direction of our live stream today. We really are guided by you because we are here to serve. We're here to give the information as people require it. And we're also still looking out at the aftermath of Cyclone Idai in eastern Africa, which has killed at least 638. 500 millimeters of rainfall could occur in the Pilbara region in Western Australia in the next few days, especially if Cyclone Veronica stalls there. David, any more news?
Not at this point in time. I'm waiting for the Bureau to update their rainfall information, so that'll be within the next half an hour to hour. And a lot of people would have evacuated from the western side of the Gulf of Carpentaria, but at least where Trevor is going to make landfall, the population isn't as great to what it is for Veronica.
Yeah, we got any idea
30,000 people.
Okay, 30,000 people in the line of Veronica.
Yes.
And for Trevor, it's just a few thousand, isn't it?
It might not even be that, because a lot of the area are cattle stations, Nathan, but I just hope that it remains fast moving, because this is the same area that got severely impacted on by Omar.
There's a look at Cyclone Trevor right now. if you've just joined us, and another frame has come in there, I think, showing just a little, well, I don't really know what the eye is doing there, but I guess we turn to radar more than anything, David, because that is a more reliable source. And you're showing it right now. You can see the concentric eye walls, by the way, or at least two competing eye walls, and that is Trevor's little problem there. It's got a very
that's right, yep,
tiny inner eye wall, as a matter of fact, and quite a broad outer one there, quite clearly distinguishable on your imagery.
That's what caught my eye when I was looking at the satellite imagery just shortly before we came live. But you know, one would really have to go back in history to see if we've ever had a cyclone that has this sort of eye activity on landfall. But it's 32, 33 Celsius. And I think the sea surface temperatures around Mornington Island are around 33 Celsius.
Wow, very warm indeed. So,
now we're going to...
How long is that radar loop there? How long does it go on for? It's a short one by the looks of it.
19...
Oh, there it is.
50?
No, it's just half an hour period, isn't it? So...
Yeah.
Difficult to establish a track there. It can't be more than about 3 hours until landfall.
So basically,
maybe a bit more.
The eye is going to be over those two eastern islands, which makes it further north of Mornington Island. But Mornington Island, the rainfall is phenomenal. It's up to 123 millimeters. And the...
At what location? At Mornington?
Yeah, Mornington. That's...
Right.
And Nathan, I don't think it's been that long since the Bureau's put the radar station on the island. Because I was just looking at the observations for the Northern Territory, and I actually saw Mornington Island. And that took me by surprise. But it's good having a radar there, because we know Mornington Island always...
It's regular, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. And I'm not sure whether it's an automatic one either.
The last one in this region would have been Cyclone Owen.
Yeah, Owen, Omar, and now Trevor.
Omar wasn't there. Penny started there.
Penny.
Yeah, Penny started there.
That. Okay, now just refresh, Nathan.
Yeah, you see that inner high eye wall holding firm, it would seem. So we're continuing to look at that here. Just us two here, by the way, me and David, representing the Australian team. David, where's your team? You need more Aussies on board, don't you?
I need an influx of...
If you're interested in helping us out during these big times on our updates, we'd love to hear from you.
And with the updates on the main channel for 2 tropical cyclones, and I should mention to the viewers that there is a lot of material that we could tap into, and it's extremely difficult to work out what information to leave out of an update. But keep an eye on the AU channel, because there have been a couple of live streams and severe thunderstorm activity are waiting for the Bureau to start issuing advisories because the whole East Coast is in for severe thunderstorm activity. There's a little bit of activity yesterday afternoon, my time, and down there in New South Wales and Victoria.
All right. Let's now get an update on Cyclone Joaninha. I've no idea on the pronunciation of that. Here it is right now in the southwest Indian Ocean. Rodrigues towards the bottom somewhere. Very difficult to make out on these graphics. In fact, I've even lost it myself. It is there somewhere. Due south of the storm.
Nathan, what was the last system that...
I'd just like to point out massive cloud tops in the last few frames on this one. 45 miles an hour, according to the latest information. Pressure around 992. It is expected to strike Rodrigues as a significant cyclone on, I think it was Monday. On Monday. So there is a good 2 and a bit days there for strengthening on this storm, David.
Yes, I was just going to ask you, Nathan, what was the last system that came close to Rodrigues, but it veered back out towards the
plenty of storms have done that this year.
Yep, and I've looked at the Joint Typhoon Warning Centre's code of uncertainty, and yes, Rodrigues could be impacted by, would I be right to say, tropical storm force winds?
What was that, sorry?
Rodrigues.
Rodrigues?
Tropical storm force winds.
Oh, worse than that, most likely. Probably hurricane force winds on Monday.
Hurricane force.
So, we'll see what happens with that. But there's that one. David, are you still showing the warning for Trevor? If you've just joined us, that's what it looks like this morning. Category 4. Landfall expected later.
Now, I'm just wondering whether it's slowed.
What makes you think it's slowed?
Well, no, I'm just putting a question whether we could say that it's slowing or it's still maintaining forward speed. I just want to see what the next update.
What time zone is that?
8:30 my time, but they're
Eastern
half an hour earlier. Yeah, Australian Eastern Standard Time. So 8:30 my time. And it's 6:45.
Yep, so there we are.
And Nathan, I'm just going to have a look at other warnings. The Northern Territory's Darwin office is doing the advisories, and the Bureau also has a severe weather warning. And Nathan,
and that's pretty much the track of the storm that we're looking at there.
Yes, and Tennant Creek, Alice Springs.
I wasn't supposed to do that. Veronica is there, by the way, and it is heading towards land as well. David?
The severe tropical cyclone Trevor to bring damaging winds, heavy rainfall to western Carpentaria, southern western parts of the Barkly districts from Saturday night. So the Bureau's got a severe weather warning, but it's a detail in the advisories, and heavy rain may lead to flash flooding expected. 24-hour rainfall totals up to 200 millimetres possible, within 150 kilometres of the centre. So they're looking at 24 hours up to 200 millimetres.
Which would you say is the biggest threat right now?
Oh, Veronica. Veronica is the biggest threat.
And that's just because of the amount of people.
The amount of people, and a key item. Is she going to stall? What direction?
Well, a lot of storms in this area do.
And Nathan, the third one, is she going to track back out offshore?
And a lot of storms in this area do that as well.
Any that you can think of?
A whole bunch. I mean, the models are calling for it. What we did have lined up, though, we did a little package about impacts in the Australian, in this part of Western Australia, and I don't know if we want to maybe play that. I don't know. Tells us a bit about the cyclone history in this area. So whilst we're on the subject of Savannah, we'll play this little VT, David, and hopefully people find it interesting.
All right, well, I'll just pop out of the studio for a minute.
Oh, you are you? How convenient.
While you play that, I'll be back.
Oh, wonderful. Here we go. Western Australia has regularly received significant tropical cyclone landfalls over the last 30 to 40 years, and we're going to take a look at some of those now. In February 1975, Cyclone Trixie made landfall near Onslow as a Category 4 on the Saffir-Simpson scale, Category 5 on the Australian scale. It caused damage to 37 buildings and caused over $6 million in damages. In December of that year, Cyclone Joan arrived and made landfall west of Port Hedland as a Category 5 on the Australian scale and also a Category 5 on the Saffir-Simpson scale according to Force 13's analysis, upgrading the storm. In 1980, Cyclone Amy made landfall just east of Pardue as a very significant cyclone, and Cyclone Orson arrived at the end of the decade in 1989, probably the strongest landfall out of all of them that have struck this region. This was promptly followed by Cyclone Ian in 1992 and Cyclone Bobby in 1995, both making Category 3 landfalls on the Australian scale, and Olivia in 1996 provided the strongest wind gust in the world. 1999 was also a very busy year in Western Australia. Cyclone Vance made landfall in March, followed by Gwenda in April, and then John in December. In 2004, Cyclone Monty caused severe flooding when it made landfall, and then Glenda followed 2 years later as a Category 3 on the Australian scale. Then we had George in 2007 making landfall east of Port Hedland, and the first one that Force 13 provided coverage of was Cyclone Rusty in 2013. The last storm of major hurricane strength to strike the region was Cyclone Christine at the end of 2013, although Kwang came close in 2015, weakening massively before it made landfall near Exmouth. Indeed, and that is the comparisons that we can make between those storms and Veronica as we continue to track it heading towards the western coast of Australia. David, are you back?
I am back, and on the screen is the rainbow imagery for Veronica.
All right. You can see the eye made what appears to be a brief appearance and appears to be disappearing again.
Yes, would I be right to say the clouds wrapping over it?
It would appear to be a perpetual eye wall replacement cycle.
An eye wall replacement.
I mean, well, you know, it's really struggling to get its act together at all. Looking at these images, there's multiple fractures in what would be its eye wall. I can see possibly double on this one as well, actually. Have you got the radar?
Yes, just...
We'll wait for David to go get that to go and get that radar.
I've got it here somewhere.
In the meantime, just look at this imagery again. You can see in particular a significant fracture in the northwest in that last frame, the southeast as well. But then you can also see just towards the northeast there, at least at the middle levels, a potential inner eye wall there. But that's hard to tell if it's rotating or not. Radar could be able to tell us conclusively.
I've got it up now, Nathan.
And there is the storm on radar at Port Hedland, I think.
Yes, it is.
A due south movement. And significant rainfall reaching the coast now, would you say?
Oh yes, the southern region. I think it's Dampier, 14 millimeters.
Right.
Barrow Island, only 8 millimeters. I'm just wondering whether now when are they saying landfall tomorrow?
It's going to take a while.
Yes, it doesn't look like it's moving that fast. But the rainfall's going to be significant. And Mandora 4 millimeters. That's what, to the Walleye Downs, Pardue, Port Hedland Airport, and it's only showing, I think, 1 millimeter.
Now this is a fairly typical thing of what we see with storms in this area, as I alluded to earlier. They do slow down. I must say, looking through history, as I have been doing for the research for that video earlier, not really any of them actually stall. They just slow down a lot as they decide whether they're going to blast through Western Australia or whether they're going to hug the coast and move out towards the west. I didn't really find any storm that just stayed in the same place for a whole day. At least a stronger one. Weaker ones may have done so, but one of this intensity doesn't tend to do that. So it'll be very interesting to see if that actually happens. If it did, it would probably weaken a lot before it got to do that.
Nathan, the Joint Typhoon Warning Centre has a 10 nautical mile pinhole eye, and they're saying the cyclone is tracking along the western periphery of a subtropical ridge to the southeast. The cyclone will now turn southeast as the steering ridge recedes eastward, making landfall about 30 nautical miles west
Okay.
of Port Hedland. That's not right. West would make it out to sea.
What's 30 nautical miles west of Port Hedland? Their expected landfall zone?
About 30 miles west of Port Hedland.
That would make
I
perfect
think that
sense.
should be east.
No?
West. Landfall. Oh, yep. The coastline. Sorry.
If it kept going in the same direction, it would end up there, yes. For certain. There could still be some twists and turns in the storm's track before it arrives.
The Joint Typhoon Warning Centres, after 72 hours, much uncertainty. Read the track.
Yes. Have you got any questions that have come up on Facebook at all?
Oh, now if you've got something on your screen, then I can.
Oh.
You can show while
We'll go and do that. Well, that is supposed to be an image of Joaninha right now, but it would appear that it's not there. The International Space Station could capture Veronica in about 90 minutes from now.
Yeah, probably a couple of hours. or sometime this morning.
And we'll get that image shortly of Joaninha again, just to show how much it's been blowing up in the last few frames. Really tall cloud tops, those oranges there, that's well below minus 90 degrees Celsius cloud tops, which are extremely high, so much so it's off the color scale on this particular setting. That denotes certainly strengthening. We'll wait and see if we get to see an eye or anything like that, and that could be rapid strengthening. We don't know yet. A reminder of the track forecasts, which look like this. This, first of all, is the forecast for Meteo France. We're just really busy here with us two here working together to try and get things all sorted out. If you've got any more questions for us, we're very happy to take them. Let's just get those images again. This is the Bureau of Meteorology track for Trevor, Category 4, likely landfall later this morning, possibly around lunchtime. Landfall just to the west of the border between Northern Territory and Queensland. This is the track forecast for Veronica. Taking it towards the southeast. Landfall very close to Port Hedland, if you believe the Bureau of Meteorology. Although, take note, that's quite a large forecast cone over the next 3 days. They're certainly not sure in whether that's going to actually happen or not, whether it could still track further south, which is what it's doing at the minute. Some models there, and can we cross back to you now? What have you got?
Nothing happening on Facebook. The Bureau's Tropical Cyclone Warning Centre Perth will update in about an hour from now.
Alright. Well, that's it for our first hour here at Force 13 HQ. Who knows how much longer we'll be here for tonight. Probably quite a while. This is Force 13 Live. We'll be delivering more updates on all of the cyclone activity out there. Cyclone Trevor in the Gulf of Carpentaria. Cyclone Veronica off the western coast. I keep saying that. The coast of Western Australia. And Cyclone Joaninha, which is heading towards Rodrigues. We'll be watching that one particularly as day breaks over there in a few hours' time. More to come here. This is Force 13's live streaming service. Back in a few minutes. Coverage continues in a moment. You can follow Force 13's outlets, the website force13.com, our YouTube page, youtube.com/Force13. On Facebook, under the same name, Force13, and our Twitter handle, it's @Force13 if you wish to get in touch. You can also add Force13 on Skype, and my personal account on Discord, Fool13, at extension 9094. You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Good morning, Australian time. We are getting towards the morning hours. We are well into the morning hours by now. 9 PM here at Force 13 HQ. That's on the universal clock. GMT +0. You're looking at Cyclone Trevor, which is on its way to making landfall just over the border in the Northern Territory, not far from the border with Queensland. It's a Category 4 on the Australian scale, Category 3 on the Saffir-Simpson scale. A cyclone warning is in effect for Alyangula all the way round to Burketown. That includes many locations inland, including how far inland there? Creswell Downs, Brunette Downs, Cape Crawford, almost as far as Tennant Creek, but not quite. Cyclone Veronica is approaching landfall as well, but it's going to take a much longer amount of time before it gets there. Cyclone warnings are in effect from Wallal Downs in the east to Mardy in the west. Landfall is expected to occur just west of Port Hedland. In the watch zone, Marble Bar and Nullagine. Invest 96W doesn't look very impressive. We've got a phone call here at Force 13 HQ, would you believe? Nothing I can do about that. That's what's left of Savannah, and this is what Joaninha looks like right now. Meteo France expect it to make landfall on Rodrigues. It's a possibility, but cones are there for a reason, and the centre of the storm could pass anywhere within that cone. It is intensifying right now, was named earlier today, and could intensify significantly before arriving in 3 days' time. The track for Trevor looks like this. Weakening quickly to a Category 1 by 4 AM on March 24th, Eastern Time, and then downgrading to a low pressure system as it curves round gradually, progressively towards the east. Veronica's track looks like this. First moving towards the southeast, although it is moving south at this time. Landfall location possibly just west of Port Hedland. Again, the cone is there for a reason, and it could still track further west. Computer models look like this. As you can see, for Trevor, pretty widespread models there. Not much of a consensus, especially when you go out to long range. Short range though looks fairly clear. It's definitely going to make landfall near lunchtime in the region that we've just discussed, and then curve towards the south and southeast. Cyclone Veronica could stall along the coast of Western Australia, or it could move in towards the east and then loop round back towards the west. That could happen in the next few days. We're not expecting landfall until probably, let's see here, Sunday morning. Early hours of Sunday morning is probably going to be the landfall time now. That's according to the Bureau of Meteorology. They expect it maybe around 6 AM. Speculative, that could change a lot. And this is the track forecast for Cyclone Joaninha. You can just about make out Rodrigues on the red line in the centre there. They are really staring down the barrel on this storm if it intensifies as we expect it to in the next 3 days. Nothing going on in the North Atlantic, nothing going on in the East Pacific or the Central Pacific. And here's a look from the Joint Typhoon Warning Centre at those 3 active systems that are dominating their respective basins. Here's a look at a potential South Atlantic storm which could emerge off the coast of Brazil tomorrow. And the Cyclone Idai death toll continues to rise. As you can see at the bottom of your screen, it is now responsible for at least 638 fatalities and over 2,000 injuries. A humanitarian crisis continuing to grow in Mozambique. If you've got any comments or questions for us whilst we're on the air this hour, send us a message either on the YouTube stream or on social media. But a word of warning, it might take me a little while to get to you because it's just me here for the time being. We've run out of staff. So do bear with me. This is the imagery of Cyclone Veronica right now, and we'll be fielding questions on any of those three systems throughout this hour. It's 5 minutes past 9 UTC, and this is Force 13's continuing live coverage. Chances of storm conditions very high in those regions. Tennant Creek even at 78%. For Veronica, on the left hand side of your screen there, you can see those percentage chances. 75% in Karatha, 75% in Dampier, 70% in Onslow, and 85% in Port Hedland. Pretty much assured that tropical storm force winds will be occurring. I think David's back. David? No, we'll try you again.
Yes, I'm here for... You got me, Nathan?
Yep, we've got you.
Okay, apology, viewers. I have one of my grandsons. I've got to do some child mining for about 2 hours.
Well, you didn't expect to hear that on the stream tonight, did you?
Yeah, well, you never know, but I am very concerned for the people in the cyclone warning region for Veronica. Apparently storm surge could be 15 metres, Nathan. 15
metres, that's a lot.
That is a lot. Destructive winds, waves of over 15 metres. Storm surge, torrential rain will be affecting an area with a population of over 30,000 people for a day. Most in the firing line for the cyclone in WA are the towns of Karatha and Port Hedland. And unlike Cyclone Trevor, Nathan, Veronica is expected to fall apart on the coastline and not penetrate far inland. The remnants of Veronica will last all week in WA with heavy tropical showers both inland and in coastal areas. They may drift as far south as Perth, but nothing too substantial is expected there at this stage. And Nathan, that information is from weatherwatch.co.New Zealand.
Okay.
They are really, we have a contact in New Zealand. And it's the weatherwatch.co.New Zealand. Philip is the owner-operator, and he also operates on Facebook, but considering New Zealand, that he is keeping a close eye on the Australian scene, and showing some rain graphic, but rainfall is going to be significant, and I'm still
waiting. We'll come back to that, David. Cyclone Trevor just about to make landfall, not too far away. It looks very close on the satellite imagery, but maybe a little bit misleading. Radar still shows it not moving very quickly. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, I'm just looking at the Mornington line of radar now.
This is fascinating. You can clearly see the two eyes, the two eye walls.
And Nathan, Veronica, looking at the radar, it's started to clear out.
It just baffles me sometimes how the radar imagery can look so much different to the infrared satellite imagery.
But you can clearly, as you just said, you can clearly see the eye feature, and It's 125 millimetres of rain for Mornington Island. The Mornington Island would have been evacuated. I haven't cited any information, but I know Groot Island was because the Air Force had a couple of flights.
All right, some questions. Is Trevor still strengthening? I don't think so. And it won't be able to when it's looking like that. With very little time before landfall, by the way. We had another question here. I want to know why Mauritius doesn't get a direct hit from a cyclone anymore. It feels that way, doesn't it? They've had so many occasions where, you know, the storms were supposed to hit and they just ended up missing. I guess it's just because Mauritius is very much a needle in a haystack, isn't it, David? And a direct landfall is pretty rare. For a place like that. It is a fairly small island, 20 or 30 miles wide, and a hurricane force conditions in a storm are usually only just about 40 or 50 miles wide. When it hits a much bigger landmass like Australia, you know, it's so much bigger than a place like Mauritius. Somewhere's going to get the worst of the winds, even if it's in the middle of nowhere. Whereas Mauritius isn't so much like that. But, you know, Mauritius will get a big hit one day. It's a matter of when. Preparation has to continue. And I do certainly understand how public faith could be deteriorating in those meteorological organisations that have been saying so often that there's going to be a storm when it didn't quite turn out that way. It's just a pretty unfortunate location because it's quite an uncertain region of the Indian Ocean.
Nathan, can I add to that with this question? Is it related to the steering mechanisms that prevent a direct hit on Mauritius?
It can play a factor, and high pressures, blocking ridges and things like that. But it's just Mauritius and Réunion are small islands in the middle of the ocean, and yes, tropical storm force winds can happen and have happened from some of those recent storms, but sometimes it's media hype as well that's the issue, and they say, you know, catastrophic conditions likely, or hurricane conditions, or a big Category 5 hurricane is coming. That doesn't mean to say that a Category 5 is going to hit with full force. Full conditions of the storm could be just offshore, but I digress in any case. Anything else?
Just looking at the ATCF file, I have Trevor located 15.6 degrees south, 138.2 degrees east, 105 knots, central pressure 952 millibars. Bureau Meteorology has it at, you know, just looking at 950, okay, and expected to be 996 and be located 18.5 degrees south, 135.2 degrees east at 24 UTC. So 950 down to 996, Nathan.
33 miles from land.
And northwest quarter winds turning clockwise to 40 nautical miles of severe tropical cyclone Trevor.
A question just came in there. Do you think Cyclone Veronica's track is almost like Cyclone Kwang's track? No. Cyclone Kwang had a much more pronounced curve. Other questions that I just missed there as well. Winds in Borroloola is supposed to be 37 miles an hour. Does that sound right? It sounds a tad low to have 95% of tropical storm force winds. You'll have to confirm whether that's right now or whether you're talking about a forecast there. If it's a forecast, then that sounds completely wrong to me. Get back to me on that. I think that was all of them there. David?
Severe tropical cyclone Veronica. I'm going by the Bureau's information, 9 of 44 bars, 18.2 degrees south, 117 east, forecast 9:49 near 20.5 degrees south, 118.4 degrees east at 24. So 9:44, and they have it at 24 UTC at 9:49 millibars. And Veronica is 961.
Which I think is a bit high.
Well, the Bureau, they've updated their high seas forecast, and they update every 12 hours, and they have it at 940. Well, sorry, viewers, 940, 944. And they have it increasing to 949, so not much difference. So,
well, quite a bit.
Yeah, it's quite a bit to what the ATCF file information. And Nathan, looking at the NOAA floater and the visible,
are you?
You can, yes, you could clearly see that the cloud, it's clearing out. The
Where have you gone? I've lost your audio here.
You got me?
Yep. We will get visible images of Cyclone Trevor very soon, in about 20 minutes, perhaps less. So there's the latest imagery of Trevor on David's screen.
Yeah, sorry, apology for the chopping and change a bit. You can clearly see the, would I be right to say, pinhole eye?
I'm not sure I'd want to call it that. It does look a bit like a pinhole eye on the infrared imagery, but from what we've seen, it's a very shallow double eye wall feature, don't forget.
Yeah.
And you know, if you're trying to look at eye structure, David, radar's by far the best place to look.
Well, especially when I look at the Mornington Iron one, but
on anyone, any radar that's worth its salt.
But I'm very, very happy that there's a radar station on Mornington Island. It actually came as a surprise to me.
Yeah, I don't think it's been there a while.
I really don't know how long it's been there, but it is, because normally it was Reaper or the Gove. I'm positive it's a new one. I could be wrong, but
I don't.
But I
know.
haven't seen it. No. You can clearly see the inner eye and quite a bit of yellow appearing in the main band on the western side of it. And
people acting very surprised.
Go on.
People acting very surprised that Trevor has two eyes. In effect, it isn't. It is somewhat uncommon. It's not particularly rare. It has happened many times in the past. I'm not sure I can remember that many instances in this part of the world that it's happened, but they've been quite common in the Pacific, in the Western Pacific Basin in particular, from what we've seen. A bit more, still not particularly common, but there is an example right there of a concentric eye wall, and it would appear that it might just be moving a bit towards the southwest at the minute, which I suppose is about right. I'm not sure. I mean, it would appear the inner eye wall might be moving west and the outer one a bit towards the southwest. It shows to me, if anything, a sign that the inner eye wall might be weakening and that it's getting dragged along a bit more with the rotation of the bigger eye now, perhaps. But there is the latest imagery, radar imagery of Trevor, which is more valuable than the satellite imagery of the storm. When radar is available, it does take precedent over satellite observations where possible. And it's just one of 3 storms that we're tracking this morning / tonight, depending on where you are around the world. Trevor is a category 4 on the Australian scale, and so is Veronica. Veronica is visible here. And Joaninha, also forming earlier in the southwest Indian Ocean, could reach Rodrigues as a significant cyclone as well. Well, we'll play a short video feature here now as well. We just like to point to everyone's attention that yesterday, as it is now, the 22nd, of course, local time in Australia, it's still the 22nd here at Force 13 HQ, is actually the 20th anniversary since Cyclone Vance affected the west coast of Australia too. And we've made a short video clip to show that one as well, so we're going to play that now. The late 90s featured an abundance of activity in the Australian region, including a few very strong tropical cyclones. Most of these cyclones made their peak out at sea or before striking land, weakening as they did make landfall. One notable exception occurred on this day 20 years ago, on March 22nd, Cyclone Vance. Its whole lifespan began in mid-March near the top end of Australia, moving out into the open Indian Ocean and then curving towards the south by making landfall in Western Australia on the 22nd and then moving inland towards the southeast. Vance reached Category 5 status on the Australian scale, Category 4 on the Saffir-Simpson scale, with an estimated pressure at peak of 910 millibars. Like all storms, it did weaken a little bit before landfall, making landfall with a pressure recorded of 937.8 millibars, still a Category 4 on the Saffir-Simpson scale, and a Category 5 on the Australian scale at landfall. It did survive as a cyclone as it crossed the whole of Western Australia, reaching the southern tip still as a tropical storm. A major storm surge of up to 4 meters combined with the wind speed of this storm caused 10% of buildings to be damaged or destroyed in Exmouth. The storm also caused widespread erosion on the Pilbara coast from its huge storm surge, and a wind gust at the Learmonth Meteorological Office reached 267 kilometers per hour. Well, we're back with Cyclone Veronica here, and there it is. Comparable to Vance, perhaps? Probably not. Vance was stronger and was a bit further west than Veronica is right now, and Veronica's probably moving a bit more slowly too. Have we got David back yet? Nope, I don't think we have. The chances of storm force winds on the left hand side there, 85% in Port Hedland, and if you missed that graphic just as I have, I can get all those numbers again for you and read them out here. I'll just read out where we are at this stage of play really. For Cyclone Trevor, chances of storm force winds in following percentages: Borroloola 95, Mornington Island 90, Port Roper 85, Tennant Creek 78, Alice Springs 56, and Mount Isa 26. Chance of storm force winds from Cyclone Veronica: Pardue at 45%, Port Hedland 85, Roebourne 80, Karratha 75, Dampier 75, Onslow 70, Exmouth 50, Coral Bay 50, and Carnarvon 35%. Chance of storm force winds from Cyclone Joaninha: in Rodrigues it's 80%. And possibly not tropical by this point, but in Isle Amsterdam it's 45%, and at Isle St Paul also 45%. Expected rainfall from Cyclone Trevor: in Borroloola 190mm, Port Roper 60, Tennant Creek 80, Alice Springs 120, Mount Isa 50, Birdsville 170, Quilpie 240, Charleville 180, and Brisbane 160. From Cyclone Veronica, expected rainfall in millimetres as follows. In Pardew, 120. Port Hedland, 490 millimetres expected there at the minute. 50 at Roebourne. Carratha, 50. Dampier, 40. Onslow, 30. Exmouth, 30. Coral Bay, 20. And Carnarvon, 80. And expected rainfall from Cyclone Joaninha in Rodrigues, 420 millimetres. That's quite a large amount as well. 50 in Flack, and 40 millimetres of rain expected in the capital of Mauritius, Port Louis. We continue to look at imagery of Cyclone Veronica, and interesting turn of events there. It would appear that the eye is doing something. I'm really not sure. Now, that would be what I would expect Trevor to look like right now, to be honest, because it sort of looks like it's got two eye walls as well. I don't think it does. Just some cloudiness in the centre of the eye. Still quite a fractured eye wall in any case. Delivering quite large amounts of rain already to the coastline. As David said earlier, perhaps not extending particularly far inland, the rainfall. Certainly the wind won't extend too far inland. And obviously the surge really only affects the first few kilometres inland. But that surge could still be very significant when it reaches those coastal towns. And we could be looking at the biggest landfall in quite some years, as we saw in an earlier trail, which I think we'll be showing again a little bit later on tonight. 2013, December, was the last time we had a storm of this strength approaching the coast of Western Australia. Cyclone Christine. Before that we had Cyclone Rusty, which was slightly, well, about the same intensity as this one actually, in early 2013. The last really big one was probably Cyclone George in 2007. If you have any more questions for us whilst we're on the air, please send us a message. Start your message with Force 13 all in text in the YouTube chat. It will light up for me in the comments and I'll be able to see you. You can also message us live on our Facebook stream as well, and we'll get to that as soon as we can. Hopefully we'll have more people joining us in a little while, but at the minute it's just me. Let's see what comments we've got here. So just coming back at me earlier about the Borroloola 37 miles an hour being a forecast, apparently, according to Gamer Agent. And I think that is weird, for lack of a better word. I would expect much stronger winds in that area. Not knowing the local geography, but I assume that it is pretty uniform. Of course, any exposed or high profile locations in altitude will of course get much stronger wind gusts. But I would certainly expect at least mid-range to high-range tropical storm force winds in Borroloola, depending on how well Trevor keeps hold of its core when it first makes landfall. I'm not sure if we no, we still, alright, we're still waiting for David to head back here, but hopefully that will happen soon. Alright, how can the storms get two eyes? So we're sort of saying Trevor's got two eyes. I mean, some people might think of two eyes next to each other, but it's actually one inside the other when it comes to Trevor. You can't see it particularly on the satellite imagery, you can see it more on the radar imagery, but this is the satellite right now showing Trevor. And I guess it's just really a result of a storm that's really been struggling with eye wall replacement cycles, one after the other, and I suppose two eye walls form together before one managed to get completed. I think it's more prevalent, I mean the causes aren't really well known at all, but I think it is more prevalent when a storm has collided with land and is coming out of that over more water. I think you're more likely to see concentric eye walls when that occurs, or a long tracking storm that has had an eye wall collapse, and then something like one of the most well publicized example being Cyclone Winnie back in 1997. Alright, a little bit later than scheduled. We're going to take a short break here. We'll be back in a few minutes with the latest on Trevor, Veronica, and Joaninha. We continue here.
Hey, it's Jack, giving just a new update on the Patreon page. We're rewarding loyalty and contributions in a new way now that we've been thinking about for some time. Now when you contribute at least $50 through your total lifetime, regardless of tier, you get your own individual storm animation made by our team. This is regardless of tier once again, so even if you donate $1 per month, after 50 months you'll get your own individual storm animation. But we do have all these other tiers and tons of other benefits to go along. If you want to get your own individual storm animation or help contribute to the project personally, feel free to use the link in the description or type in your browser www.patreon.com/Force13.
Along with the main Force 13 channel for our world audience, we have regional channels, Force 13 AU and Oceania, Force 13 UK and Ireland, and Force 13 US and Caribbean. These channels all need your support and involvement, so if you're in those areas, please check them out. A warm day in Queensland indeed. Now we're looking at that imagery again that we showed in the last hour. The International Space Station passed over Cyclone Veronica on March the 21st. And this is what it looked like. This was when it was really close to its actual peak. And there is the storm. Doesn't look quite as good now as it did then. Do we have David back with us? Nope, I'm staring at silence. We still don't have David with us. He'll be able to tell us more news when he returns. Alright, well that's not Veronica, that is Trevor, but this is Veronica right now. There it is, continuing to edge towards land, and that's what we've been covering probably the most in this hour. I did want to bring you though, instead now, to Cyclone Joaninha again. We're continuing to study the imagery as it comes in, and it's there somewhere. Really cold cloud tops appearing in that cyclone right now. This is the one in the southwest Indian Ocean, not far from the island of Rodrigues, and huge cloud tops, especially in the southeastern quadrant. We're watching this one very closely to see if this is a rapid intensification phase or whether it's just having a huge blow up, possibly in the face of high wind shear, which is a bit of a telltale sign on the northern edge there that high wind shear could be playing a part, just in how big of a cliff edge it is from the coldest cloud tops to no clouds at all, just to the north. And also, if you've just joined us and you're wondering about the latest in terms of Cyclone Idai, the death toll there today has reached 638, with over 2,000 injured. A humanitarian disaster that continues over there in Eastern Africa, particularly in Mozambique, but not just there. I think it's 200 or so, or no, over 100 have been killed in Zimbabwe. I think it's 139. And there are still nearly 200 missing in Zimbabwe as well. But of course in Mozambique, we still don't really know the number yet. We know, of course, at least 202 have been killed there. A lot of aid agencies and a lot of countries have been sending aid. The United Kingdom sending at least £12 million of aid to the region. A lot of UN organisations sending aid as well. We'll be back in just a moment. We continue with Force 13's live streaming service, and a lot to talk about, and a lot we have been speaking about so far. And I've no idea where my correspondent David has got to, though. If he can hear me, hopefully he'll be able to return at some point. And questions there about where has Strat been lately? We don't know. Strat's around there somewhere. Cyclone Trevor likely to make landfall a little bit later on today, before lunchtime perhaps. We've also got Cyclone Veronica, which continues to move towards the coast of Australia. I actually have to leave the desk briefly here. We're going to play some music for a few minutes whilst we continue to look at these storms on the automated streaming service.
AMD.
We return with Force 13 Live, coverage continuing here on the cyclone, the double cyclone threat for Australia this morning. I believe I'm now joined by Isaac.
Hello.
Hello. Don't sound surprised. Where do you want to start? We're still looking at all of these storms right now. We've been talking at length for nearly 2 hours on this so far, and we don't intend to stop anytime soon. Veronica?
Cool. Well, it's making... I don't know if it's making landfall right now. I haven't checked the radar in hours, but I know...
No,
Veronica.
We're looking at Veronica, and satellite imagery recently has been very intriguing.
Yeah. I know last I checked with Trevor, it had concentric eye walls, and Veronica was trying to reform its eye, albeit a little bit weaker and wider than it was before.
And do you think... I don't know. I don't know what is going on with that. What is that little bit of cloud in the center of the storm? Is that... Don't tell me it's another concentric eye wall. I don't think it is.
Might be just radar interference. But, yeah, I see the concentric eye walls quite clearly on the radar here. I'm going to pull up screen share a little bit, but I'm just getting everything sorted right now.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, it's definitely still there. Looks like the outer eye wall is shortly going to be over land soon.
Oh, you're talking about Trevor?
Yeah, the outer eye wall of Trevor.
Well, look at Veronica, because I think there could be something going on there as well.
There you go, Steve. Let's pull up the Bureau of Meteorology.
Alright, well...
Last I checked, it had one solid eye wall.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Yeah, it looks like, I mean, maybe it's birds. I want to say it could be birds that are trapped in the eye.
You think so?
I mean, that's happened before with the most recent example I can think of off the top of my head is Matthew. There was some radar interference and it ended up being birds trapped in the eye of the hurricane.
Yes, but Matthew had been over land a few times by then, hadn't it?
Yeah, but these birds may have, I don't know, it's either birds or...
I don't know either.
A cloud rolling on around through the eye wall here.
Alright, well, whilst you're still getting all your things sorted here, let's go and remind ourselves. I know some of our trackers will know all about the differences, but some out there may be a little bit confused with our terminology. We're going to run a very short video here on what the Australian scale and the Saffir-Simpson scale, what their differences are mainly, in this short video clip here, whilst Isaac gets ready. See reference to two tropical cyclone scales concerning the Australian region: the worldwide used Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale developed in the United States in the 1970s, and the Australian scale, which is adopted in the Australia region and in the South Pacific region and has been in use since the late 1980s. The key difference as to why the scales are different is because the Australian scale begins at the tropical storm stage for giving its numerical categories, whereas the hurricane scale, the Saffir-Simpson scale, begins at category 1 when the storm actually becomes an actual hurricane. The Australian scale covers all cyclones, the Saffir-Simpson scale only hurricanes. So, category 1 on the scale covers 74 to 95 mile an hour winds on the Saffir-Simpson scale, 39 to 55 miles an hour on the Australian scale. A recent example of a category 1 is Cyclone Linda in 2018. Category 2 covers a little bit higher, 96 to 110 miles an hour on the Saffir-Simpson scale, 56 to 73 on the Australian scale. A recent example of that, Cyclone Penny in 2019, along with a few others there on that list. Category 3 covers hurricanes on both scales, the Saffir-Simpson scale 111 to 129 miles an hour, in Australia 74 to 98. A recent example of a Category 3 storm on the Australian scale was Cyclone Riley. Category 4 covers 130 to 156 mile an hour winds on the Saffir-Simpson scale, 99 to 124 in Australia. This covers Cyclone Savannah in early 2019 on the Australian scale. And finally, Category 5 on the Saffir-Simpson scale, 157 miles an hour or more, in Australia 125 miles an hour or more, pictured Cyclone Marcus in 2018, a Category 5 on both scales. Alright, well we did have it there. Here it is, Cyclone Trevor. And Isaac, your thoughts in general on Trevor as we look at it right now? Not far from landfall?
Well, it's been trying its best to, looks like it's trying its best to ramp up here, but
does it though? It looks quite. It looks like a typical storm trying and failing in the Gulf of Carpentaria. It's really having a go at it. It's got massive cloud tops, but that's what you expect in this part of the world. Baking hot sea surface temperatures. It just can't get its structure right.
Pretty much. As you can see, it still has that concentric eye wall in it as well too. Even though the frames are kind of messed up, but it still has it. Whether or not it weakens or not, it still won't lessen impact by much where it's at. The good thing, though, for the most part, is where it's making landfall. It's quite sparsely populated, with the exception to the west of it. We have, I think it's called Center Island to the west of it.
Yep.
There. But where it's generally going to make landfall, it's relatively sparsely populated until you get farther inland.
So would you say that the hurricane force winds from this storm will probably miss everyone? Or most people?
I mean, maybe Eastern Center Island might get it because they might be getting to the outer eye wall here.
Right.
It depends. I would say it really depends how fast this thing starts the weekend when it goes over land. Really.
Yes, more people I think are interested in Veronica because there's more people in the way of the storm. And as we look at that one again, I'm still trying to figure out what's going on there. I've never thought it was actually an inner eye wall. I still don't think it is because I'm not seeing any rotation in it. So I think it's just baggage, I suppose, being lugged around the center of the eye. And it's just not able to clear itself out. And it's having trouble closing off that eye wall as well. It's completely in different spirals in and out, and it's not managing to get a circulation properly there, is it?
No.
And it's probably going to do that all the way up until landfall, don't you think?
Maybe. It might.
Now here's the thing, we're going to run the little video about the history of Western Australian storms again shortly. And on that list, none of them really stalled when they struck Western Australia. You just sort of get the feeling, is this just going to be one that's going to end up stalling on the coast, like we've seen so many storms do recently? When in actual fact, climatologically speaking, it is pretty rare for a storm of this strength to stall on the coast. They usually go straight in or curve round and hug the coast.
I have my screen share up right now currently. Just barely got it up.
Alright, so what are we looking at here?
On the left, you see Veronica, and on the right is Trevor.
Quite clear how those double eye walls on Trevor.
Indeed, and you can see Center Island to the west of it. Looks like it might get brushed by the outer eye wall by the looks of it.
And Borroloola a bit further west there as well. What's that location in the southeast there with the blue dot?
The blue dot, that is, let's see here, that's Gunta, I think it's Guna, if I'm not mistaken, how you say it. I don't know how to exactly say it.
I can't even
But,
read it, so I can't help.
Yeah, I think it's Guna, something. I don't know how to say it, but it's a little city there on an island there. That's where the radar is. So
Is it?
yeah, the radar is right about here where the blue dot's at, and the same for about this blue dot where Veronica's at. The Veronica radar here. See if I could go to the Bureau of Meteorology here and get a wider view of Veronica.
Well, this'll paint a picture a bit more about the actual rainfall amounts that we're seeing.
See, there's Veronica right here on the Bureau of Meteorology radar. This is a composite of the radars around the general region, and I combine them together to make this one little radar GIF here. You see a Veronica.
Yes, and its movement still due south in those frames, would it be? Or is it a bit eastward now?
I can't tell because it's just 6 frames, but, well, actually, let me go back to this one because there's more frames here. Let's see. Yeah, it looks generally south, I would say. Maybe jogging a little bit here and there, but otherwise it looks to be staying just maybe due south, I would say, on the radar.
A question, what about the one in the northeast of Mauritius? We have been discussing that a few times. Cyclone Joaninha. We will cover that one again in the next hour. We'll have some more imagery, I think, on that one. Rodrigues, completely need to watch out for that. To finish this hour, we're going to take another look back here at the history of Western Australian landfalls, and maybe we can draw some comparisons to some of these storms here. Let's see if we can play that now. Western Australia has regularly received significant tropical cyclone landfalls over the last 30 to 40 years, and we're going to take a look at some of those now. In February 1975, Cyclone Trixie made landfall near Onslow as a Category 4 on the Saffir-Simpson scale, Category 5 on the Australian scale. It caused damage to 37 buildings and caused over $6 million in damages. In December of that year, Cyclone Joan arrived and made landfall west of Port Hedland as a Category 5 on the Australian scale and also a Category 5 on the Saffir-Simpson scale according to Force 13's analysis, upgrading the storm. In 1980, Cyclone Amy made landfall just east of Pardue as a very significant cyclone, and Cyclone Orson arrived at the end of the decade in 1989, probably the strongest landfall out of all of them that have struck this region. This was promptly followed by Cyclone Ian in 1992 and Cyclone Bobby in 1995, both making Category 3 landfalls on the Australian scale, and Olivia in 1996 provided the strongest wind gust in the world. 1999 was also a very busy year in Western Australia. Cyclone Vance made landfall in March, followed by Gwenda in April, and then John in December. In 2004, Cyclone Monty caused severe flooding when it made landfall, and then Glenda followed 2 years later as a Category 3 on the Australian scale. Then we had George in 2007 making landfall east of Port Hedland, and the first one that Force 13 provided coverage of was Cyclone Rusty in 2013. The last storm of major hurricane strength to strike the region was Cyclone Christine at the end of 2013, although Kwang came close in 2015, weakening massively before it made landfall near Exmouth. So here's the latest on Cyclone Veronica, which continues to move in towards land at this time. Although it's still going to be a very slow thing, and we're going to be here for quite some time watching it do just that and keeping you up to date on every twist and turn up until landfall. Isaac, any news for us?
Not at the moment. I'm just looking through IR and radar currently, trying to find which one would be best to show here, and I'm showing Veronica and you can see it's trying to really pull out that eye in the more recent frames, and then yeah, it's just really trying to fix its eye. By the looks of it. Yeah, I want to say, just looking at the mesoscale here, those clouds within the eye, or those dots in the eye that you see on the bigger meteorology radars, likely, I would say, probably just cloud cover that's kind of just stuck in the eye here of Veronica.
Looking very interesting on those frames. Nice close-up on the right-hand side, showing the progress of that. Well, it did a flare up on that southwestern side of the eye there, but it just looks a bit of a mess, doesn't it? It's struggling.
Yeah, that's been pretty much what it's been doing over the past 3 hours here. To go back
in a
to
word,
the radar.
struggling.
Here, alright, Veronica here, you can see, still moving south by the looks of it. Let's go back to the bigger meteorology because it shows a better view here, albeit a lower resolution. Yeah, it's just trying to get itself sorted, pretty much. It looks like beforehand landfall, and whether it gets sorted out won't really be an issue here. I believe it's forecast to kind of just meander or stall around this general region over the next few days, which will give
we'll get onto the updated Bureau of Meteorology map in the next hour, along with many other things. We'll probably look at models too. Latest image just out on Cyclone Trevor, first visible from the Himawari 8 satellite, is out, and you can see how it's looking there. Still doesn't look particularly convincing even on visible imagery. We'll leave you with this as we enter our next hour of coverage. This is Force 13 Live. We'll be back again soon. Continues in a moment. You can follow Force 13's outlets, the website force13.com, our YouTube page, youtube.com/Force13, on Facebook under the same name, Force13, and our Twitter handle, it's @Force13 if you wish to get in touch. You can also add Force13 on Skype, and my personal account on Discord, Fool13, at extension 9094. You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Cyclone Veronica continues to barrel towards the western coast of Australia. It's a Category 4 on the Australian scale, a Category 2 on the Saffir-Simpson scale with winds of around 105 miles per hour. That's 170 kilometers per hour. A pressure around 957 millibars. A cyclone warning is in effect from Wallal Downs in the east to Mardi in the west. That includes Dampier, Karratha and Port Hedland. A cyclone watch is in effect for Nullagine, and actually the warning has been extended further inland to include Marble Bar in the last few minutes. My name is Nathan Foy, and this is the latest on Veronica and of course the other systems as well. We will be keeping our eyes on, and we are keeping our eyes on, both Trevor and also Cyclone Joaninha. Joining me is Isaac on screen share. Good evening.
Hello from Texas.
We're also joined by Ryan in this hour. Ryan, hello.
Hello.
And fingers crossed, we might just have David back. Oh, what ones are trying? Never mind, we don't have David back just yet. Trevor is on the right-hand side there. You're looking at the Gulf of Carpentaria, and Isaac and Ryan, any observations you'd like to bring up on that one?
Well, I don't really note
looks like
much of a difference.
Trevor's getting pretty close to landfall.
It is indeed
have to say
landfall
that.
expected by lunchtime.
Oh. So that's only a few hours away, I think, right?
Yeah, not long at all. And it looks that
Oh.
way too. I mean, the way it's moving there. I mean, to be honest, the outer eye wall is just about to reach the coast, Isaac.
Yeah, that's I was noting last last update there, and it looks like the outer eye wall might be just barely touching shore now. Looks like on the last frame there. I don't know if it's lagging out on my end or whatever, but on the last frame we see it kind of barely touch the coastline there before it
we're
ends.
seeing it. We're seeing it, all right. Does
Veronica,
this mean
let me
it's
get a wider
moving more
view.
quickly though?
Here's Veronica over using the composite weather radars here. Those little specks you see in the middle of the eye are the clouds trying to be sorted out by the storm itself, but it's been kind of failing for the past few hours here. As it starts to slowly make its way towards landfall. It's also expected to kind of either stall. I haven't checked too much up on it, but last I checked, it's expected to either stall or kind of meander around here over the next couple of days and likely cause lots of flash flooding around the central region. Afraid. I don't know the exact totals, but I know flash flooding is likely expected.
Well, I think it's the small green print there is how much rainfall has been in those areas since 9 a.m. yesterday in millimeters.
To about 14 millimeters over in Dampier,
yes.
Dampier, no. And 2 millimeters in Port Hedland, by the looks of it.
Which isn't much. I mean, it was 1 an hour ago, so it's only not gone up very much at all.
And here's a rapid scan of the cyclone here. You can see it's been trying to clear out that eye, but it's failed pretty much. You can see in the last frame, it's really tried to clear out that eye. Whether it'll do it or not, we'll just wait and see on it. Let's go to Trevor here. Here's Trevor. Slowly making its landfall here.
Yeah, wow. What's going on with that?
And I'm noticing looks to be disorganizing now as it gets closer to the land here in the latest frames here. Sorry if it's lagging on your screen because I forgot to slow down the animation speed. But I'm surely doing something there. Let's go back to radar of Trevor. As you can see here, it's starting to make the outer eyewall certainly seems to be on land probably right now. Center Island looks like they might get brushed with the outer eyewall here, I want to say, especially eastern part of the island here. And then you can see the inner eyewall still over the sea here currently.
Ryan, any thoughts that you'd like to bring to the table?
Not really.
Oh. Why did you turn up then?
I don't know.
I don't know. Well,
For a response.
we'll keep watching those.
Yeah.
That's mainly what we do. If you've got any comments or questions that our team might be able to answer for you during this hour, please send us a message on the YouTube chat. Type in Force 13 all in text. It will light up big and bright for us, and we'll be able to see to some of those questions. We did have a rather unrelated question. Do you like making cyclone season animations? I'm not sure that's really relevant to our coverage. I mean, it's pretty tedious in all honesty. That's why not many people have done them already. What else do we have here? And
Someone was asking
Mauritius
if,
and Rodrigues might potentially go into Cyclone Warning Class 1 tomorrow. It wouldn't surprise me if Rodrigues did. It would surprise me if Mauritius got any cyclone warnings. It's going to miss. But it could deliver modest amounts of rainfall there. Isaac?
Someone was wondering if Veronica was going to an eyewall placement cycle. That is a good question. I will get back to you. Unless Nathan has an answer right now, I'll get back to you shortly once I look at it really quick here.
Hard to tell on radar. It's still near the edge of the coverage.
Oh, let me go back to the beer meteorology here.
I mean, it doesn't look like one really, does it? Which would be a bit of a surprise, because it looks not so great on the satellite imagery, but then it can have that look. A storm can look terrible on infrared. You know, things like Matthew, Isaac, looked pretty good on radar.
It really did.
When it was passing Florida, and looked terrible on the satellite.
Of course, that's why you must rely on other sources and not just one here. Looking at microwave, I'm afraid the microwave pass failed, but looking at the most recent one, there might be a slight rumbling of maybe a possible eyewall placement cycle, but it's hard to say because it did the pass right on the edge of the eyewall here, so it's hard to say, but there might be a possible one.
Inconclusive evidence then.
Yeah, of course I have to be on the edge of the coverage, but oh well.
Yep, and a reminder of the warnings that are in effect for Trevor right now. They haven't changed, I don't think. The warnings extend from Alyangula to Burketown, including Mornington Island, Wollongorang, I think it is, Robinson River, Borroloola, Port MacArthur, Port Roper, and Numbulwar. Inland, it also affects Creswell Downs and Brunette Downs. Tennant Creek lies just on the edge of the warning zone. It isn't in the warning zone, but severe weather is possible there. As we continue to look at that radar imagery. If you've just joined us, the news out of Mozambique, Cyclone Idai, responsible now for 638 fatalities and over 2,000 injuries, mainly in Mozambique and Zimbabwe, also affecting Malawi. The coastline of Mozambique has changed in the last few days, at least temporarily, as a result of the cyclone.
Yeah, I mean, what I've been seeing out of Mozambique is pretty dramatic. I mean, you don't get to see stuff like that very often.
Indeed. Alright, we're just waiting to see something else here. Alright, let's do another roundup then. Let's start from the beginning here. Where are we? Losing track of things. Here is the latest imagery of Cyclone Trevor. As you can see, first visible images appearing. It's about to make landfall. It's really been steaming pretty quickly in those latest frames. It could be moving over land in an hour. This is a 7-hour loop. And the way it's been going in that time, yeah, that could make landfall in about an hour's time. Maybe 2. Very soon indeed. It's moving pretty quickly. So that's the last act of Trevor, most likely. Here's Veronica. Latest frames. Eye expanding, it would appear. Would you agree with that, Isaac?
We look again. Yeah, it appears that it might be trying to expand here, so...
It's not going to try and make a break for annular status, is it? Oh, good lord.
I mean, it looks horrible right now, so I
horrible.
Yeah, so I don't know about that.
It's going to deliver a lot of rain, though, and that could be the big threat from this. 500 millimeters, possibly. 490 expected at Port Hedland.
Wow.
Nearly 20 inches of rain. 96W looks like trash. Savannah, likewise. And this here is the latest image of Cyclone Joaninha. Now, guys, looking at this imagery, massive blow up in convection in the center of the storm. Is it rapid intensification, or is it just one of those outbursts from a storm that is battling wind shear?
Well, I can't tell by just looking at one infrared image, but
yeah,
if that sensor
that's
is
pretty hard.
If that sensor is in the middle of that convection and could be trying to go into rapid intensification, but without a loop, I can't really tell.
Well, all the other images look the same, so...
I haven't been paying attention much to it, so I don't... In fact, actually, let me go to...
Alright, I'll let you get onto that one whilst we look at some more images.
Yeah.
This was the Mateo France track for that cyclone. You know, we know never to look at the very centre of the track, but the centre of the track is taking it directly over Rodrigues. That could happen, but it could just very easily go anywhere within that cone.
Yeah.
Again, you know, we were talking about Mauritius being a bit of a needle in a haystack when it comes to cyclones making landfall there. Rodrigues is even tinier.
And they've already been directly affected by a cyclone earlier this season.
Yes.
Which
we also covered
again
extensively. Here again is that Bureau of Meteorology track map for Trevor. They expect landfall to occur at about 11 AM. The time there, I think, is about 8 AM, if I'm not mistaken, in Eastern Australia.
Well, they're at plus 9.5, so...
Are they?
Yeah, Central Australia, like the Northern Territory is plus 9.5.
Alright. It's too late for me to be able to work that one out. But I'm not too far away with that time zone.
Yeah,
but there we are.
Yeah, it's probably like... I think it's like 8 AM there.
I think it's quite clear that the storm's going to make landfall earlier than 11 o'clock.
Yeah, it's looking pretty close.
Unless it decides it wants to stall at the last minute again. Alright, this is Veronica.
Oh, yeah.
Landfall expected early hours of the morning, or possibly later hours of the morning, actually. Tomorrow, Sunday. It's moved south overnight, slowly. And when you look at that imagery, perhaps a little bit of acceleration before striking the Pilbara coast. Port Hedland there, possibly in the crosshairs for really destructive winds. But there is a lot of uncertainty in this track. The models do disagree a little bit. It could track further west, so Karatha could even be in the crosshairs by the time it gets there. Again, these were some earlier model runs. I think more people will be interested in Veronica, and look how much of a mess it is. Models going all over the place there. And this is for Joaninha. Southwest at first, then southeast. Threat to Mauritius is minimal, but there are some outliers there that could go on to affect one or both of the Masserine Islands. The main Masserine Islands. And just in case you were wondering, that South Atlantic storm possibility is still there. And that is likely to emerge off the coast of Brazil tomorrow, and then we'll really know whether it means business or not. David, do we have you? It's about the 10th time I've asked so far.
He was in the chat earlier.
I don't know.
I don't understand. On my screen share, I'm looking at.
Yeah, let's get onto
Trevor
that
here.
screen share. First of all, I'd like to thank Nelson very much for helping to support the project. Hi, David.
Just here for a few minutes. Biometeorology has updated Northern Territory Office the forecast for Trevor. Their next update's going to be about 11:30 my time. I was hoping they might have put out an update in about 10 minutes, but it looks like it's going to be their forecast track. Nathan, they've updated 18 minutes ago my time, and not much has changed.
No.
Intensity 4, sustained winds in the centre of 175 kilometres per hour, with wind gusts to 250 kilometres an hour, located within 9 kilometres of 15.7 degrees south, 137.
And that's Veronica.
Trevor.
Oh, that's Trevor.
Yeah, sorry, mate. They updated 18 minutes ago. And the forecast tracks in about half an hour, about 10 minutes from now.
Right. Yep.
And they have it tracking west-southwest at 19 kilometres an hour, and they have it around 190 kilometres northwest of Mornington Island, and 155 kilometres east-northeast of Buralula. And it's a Category 3 on the Saffron-Simpson hurricane
Did
scale.
you just say Saffron Simpson?
Well, Saffron-Simpson. I know I have.
Oh, David.
Yes, I know. What are we going to do with you?
Nothing.
Anyway, the destructive core, Nathan, the destructive
going.
core is expected to cross the Northern Territory coast this morning before moving inland into the Barkly district during today and tonight. And the cyclone should weaken below cyclone strength by a Sunday afternoon.
That sounds about right.
And the International Space Station?
Yes, I am monitoring it. They are about to arrive near the storm. A few minutes.
And for our viewers, so we are live streaming via the Facebook page. And apology if there was a little bit transmission from the astronauts up there in the ISS, but the streaming is good. And I'm just waiting for the forecast track to be updated. And Nathan, I've posted the rainfall latest from the BOA.
Can you tell us
the
what they're saying?
images. Well, I'm looking, as you said, up to 200 millimeters, but
Yep.
the anywhere up to 400 millimeters and 400 millimeters plus for Veronica at Port Hedland. That's
Yes.
across the next 8 days.
We're expecting possibly 500 millimeters of Port Hedland.
And the Bureau is saying 200 millimeters per day for the next few days here in Queensland.
Wow.
Going to back to infrared here. I was gonna note Trevor in the latest streams looks like it's trying to ramp back up a tad bit here. Actually, I'll go ahead and stop it at the last frame so it doesn't lag out on my computer here. Just go ahead and do that.
Oh, I don't know.
It's trying to do
but
something
the
here.
amount of deep convection is much lower now.
We go back a little bit compared to earlier, how it looked when it looked like still a mess.
It had more deep convection though than it does now.
But it almost looks like it has two eyes there. But I digress.
Probably
the
does.
actual eyes are right there. Well,
It is a
technically it does because it has concentric eyeballs, but not side by side eyeballs. But certainly getting even closer towards the coast here. Like I said, thankfully there's pretty much this area is relatively rural. Only really populated areas are farther inland, and the only one that's really kind of, I guess, indirectly in the path of it would be Center Island, and looks like it's going to get brushed by the outer eye wall here. And actually, looking at the latest frames, it looks like it's going on like a south. Looks like it's going southwest here. So actually, they might get scraped by the inner eye wall here. Look, by the looks of it, possibly. If it keeps going away, I think it might be going. So that's certainly interesting there.
The International Space Station. This is live, just about to enter the daylight area. This may capture Cyclone Veronica in just a few minutes. We'll keep you up to date with that. As soon as there's something interesting to see, we'll cross back to that. For now, it's the radar imagery that Isaac is still showing us. And little bits of rain over Western Australia at the minute. Doesn't look like anything big has arrived just yet, but it's about to for some areas there. Some of the yellows about to reach the coastline. Port Hedland probably won't get a lot initially, looking at it. It could be places like Karratha that gets it first.
Indeed, and here I'm gonna look quickly at what's the name of this one? The new one? What's the name of the new stuff?
Joaninha.
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 Looking at the loop of Joaninha. Like you said, Nathan, like you seen in the last few frames there, the burst of convection there. The center appears to be roughly roughly around this general region, if I'm not mistaken. It looks like. So if that convection wraps around under that center, I would say it could easily probably rapidly intensify. Models have been forecasting it to intensify. So I would say it's quite possible for it to go into rapid intensification over the next few days here. Go back to Trevor here, update it, see if it's got a new frame. Have we got a new frame? Nope, it's an old frame. Nope, no new frames as of yet. Veronica, you can see here, existing pretty much.
Existing.
I mean, that's pretty much what it's doing. Just it's existing. Going back to Trevor here, one could easily see the concentric eye walls here. You can see the outer eye wall, you can see the inner eye wall. You can see some rain bands that are hitting where the radar is located. I can't for the life of me pronounce what the where the radar is located. So I'm not even going to try, but it's hitting this
Yeah.
island. The heavy rain bands are hitting this
Mornington
island.
Island.
Mornington Island. No, I'm talking about this like G-named city, but I was calling Mornington Island. Definitely the stronger outer bands currently infected Mornington Island, and over here, Central Island looks to be going to get into the outer eye wall and possibly maybe brush the inner eye wall if it keeps moving on its southwesterly course here. You can see Veronica here, eye wall here, and you can see the little bits of light blue there. Is those clouds just rotating around the center here as we go back to the rapid scan here. You can quite easily see the little pieces of cloud that are still kind of rotating in there. Not quite has cleared out its eye just yet. We update it now. See if we got any new frames. We probably have. See it starts clearing out there.
All right.
Yeah, it's still trying to clear out.
Daylight over the ISS. I'm not sure what we're looking at, so I'm showing it in case I may be inadvertently getting some part of the storm. I don't even know if the storm itself is in daylight. It might be behind that dark cloak. We're just entering the daylight side of the Earth, and I'm not sure what we're looking at the minute. But I think Veronica might still be in darkness, actually, behind that. David, can you confirm?
Yeah, I'm just having a look at the cameras, and it would be 6:30 over there in Perth.
So it probably is daylight then. Actually, I think the storm, yes, is on the far right hand side of the image. We're going to just mess about with this image a bit, and hopefully we'll be able to catch the edge of it.
Oh yeah, on the satellite, it's definitely on at sunrise pretty much right now, currently, by the looks of it. So we might possibly get a glimpse or some sort of
the
Veronica
storm
here
is just on the left hand side there. The right hand side, I'm sorry. On the very edge, it's difficult to see.
Oh yeah.
The sheet outer bands there of it as well too.
I'm not sure where exactly this is right now, but the storm is on the right hand side of the image behind the satellite.
The International Space Station is just near Adelaide, South Australia, so we're looking at the back
Yes.
cameras, so it would be on the right hand side, but unfortunately it's just a little bit too
bit too far over, that's a shame.
yeah. But I'll keep an eye on it this afternoon.
I don't know if it's a stable connection, at least it's connection to be going in and out.
Let's go back to this imagery showing the latest Bureau of Meteorology track for first Trevor you saw briefly, and now Veronica. And that's something that we're continuing to be vigilant over right now. I think we're going to finish at the end of this hour because I think we've discussed everything for now, and I think the situation isn't particularly urgent to stay on the air. We'll probably do more regular updates throughout the day, Australian time, and in the morning for Mauritius as well. There's a lot to cover in this time. So in this last 30 minutes here, send in anything you want, and we'll get to your questions and hopefully good answers. Back to the imagery though with Isaac.
Hello. And
some of the yellows moving inland now.
Are you able to hear me?
Sorry?
Hello?
Yes.
Alright, because the connection, I don't know if it's just me, but everybody's connection on my end is getting really robotic. I was looking at stream and it was looking like that as well. I'm afraid. Hopefully it gets fixed. But looking at the radar here, still easily see the concentric eye walls of Trevor here.
Yep. Do you think that will hold up until landfall, which must only be about an hour away now?
I don't necessarily know, to be honest here.
Why are you searching for Cyclone Katarina?
I know, I was trying to make the page go down and I decided to search for Katarina for some reason. I don't know why. But I was searching for that earlier. Slowing the radar down here. I think that's a little bit too slow, actually. Make it go faster. Yeah, okay, there you go. Yeah, the concentric eye wall there. It might be just radar interference, but it seems to be starting to go away here in the later frame. See later, it's really only on the western side there, that inner eye wall. So it could easily be dissipating.
It's been like that for a while, though.
Well, if you look in the earlier frames, it's really pronounced, and then in the later frames there, it starts really withering away. But like I said, it could be just the radar. It might be just getting out of the range of the radar, or it could be legitimately just going away now in the later frames. There's Veronica there on the left. You see there with the Bureau of Meteorology.
Yep.
Radar.
Alright then, I think now is a good time to take a look at some model runs, and I'm going to go to the model station and get some models. Alright, well, we have this. Does this work? Nope, we'll try this one. Alright, well, you can quite clearly see both Veronica and Trevor. And where are we in this run? We are here. Nope, this can't be up to date. This is yesterday's. We'll go to today's. That might be a good idea. Alright, so they're initializing at this point here. Interesting to note that they're initializing with Trevor at 935 millibars and Veronica at 942. Not so sure about that. So, there they go, making landfall. GFS still wants rapid intensification from Veronica, which I think is quite fascinating. GFS wants rapid intensification. I don't see it. Trevor moves inland. Veronica stalls along the coast for a while and then hugs the west coast and then continues off and dies. Trevor still survives and then does die over Queensland. Never makes it to Brisbane in the end, David, according to the GFS. And in the long range, nothing else. It only goes up to 198 hours so far, but I think that's enough, to be honest. Let's not get tempted into looking at a long range model run. To the Indian Ocean as a whole, this is what we're looking at. You can see Cyclone Joaninha on the left hand side, becoming a significant storm, possibly the 6th Category 4 of the year in the basin, at least. I can't remember how many there's been now. There's been a lot. And then sweeping down towards the south. Nothing else on the board for the next few weeks, possibly. It's looking pretty quiet after these storms, I must say. And finally, probably the most interesting one to show you tonight, and this morning, wherever you are. South America. Who thought we'd be saying that? Watch the coast of Brazil here, just as we get into Saturday. This is Saturday morning, along the coast, round about here. A new low pressure system emerges, and by Monday morning becomes a potential tropical cyclone, peaking with a pressure, according to the GFS, of 1001. The ECMWF also have the system, becomes possibly notable by Saturday, definitely by Sunday, peaks at 1005 millibars. CMC, just for the fun of it, because it is a just for fun model after all, 999, and then right off towards the southeast. The NavGem, 998 according to the NavGem model, and then moving off towards the southeast. Does the icon cover this area? Yes. Very weak, but it actually takes the storm into land. That's the only model that actually takes the storm into a landfall. I think that's all of them that cover this region. So still very interesting to see what's on offer for the South Atlantic over this weekend into early next week. But with everything else, we pretty much know what's going to happen, more or less. And let's go back to the imagery with Isaac.
Hello. Alright, here's Trevor on the left here, and there's Veronica. I almost forgot the name of it. Veronica on the right there. Rapid scan of Veronica. This is every 10-minute imagery of Trevor here, since it's not under the rapid scan right now currently. Trevor, obviously you can see turning there, and then we go over towards radar here for Trevor. Looking at the later frames, looks like that concentric eye wall might be starting to go away. And you have that outer eye wall still going there, and it looks like Center Island might be starting to get the outer eye wall, the very outer eye wall on the eastern side of the island. So for the most part, hopefully it looks to be weakening here. Veronica, let's take a look at the Veronica while we're here. Veronica radar from the Bureau of Meteorology, you still see that clearly defined eye on radar and on satellite here as it tries to clear its island in later frames. It'll be said whether or not it'll actually clear out that eye or fail and try again. Microwave did show some slight rumblings of possibly an eyewall placement cycle in the making. Wouldn't surprise me if there was. So that's really all I have to say at this point, Nathan.
Yeah, some questions coming in here. We haven't had a South Atlantic tropical cyclone since December 2017, right?
Yeah, that was the last one. That was a subtropical one.
The last,
I think the last
tropical one was in the last tropical one was what was it called? Anita? It was called Anita.
No, I think it was.
Was it?
Yeah, I think it was like in 2011 or 2010.
Yeah, I think it was like 2010, 2011, but I think it was called Anita. And before that, it was Katerina, and then the Angola cyclone of 1991. Yeah.
We had another question. Have two storms happened like this before? I assume they mean, two storms hitting Australia at the same time. Well, we don't have to go that far back to remember a year that had this, 2015, which had Lam and Marcia at the same time making landfall. Also in March, that was the earlier part of March, I think it was now. That was 4 years ago. It was the first event that we actually did a live stream on here at Force 13. So
I thought Lam and Marcia were like February, like mid to late February. I know
I'm not sure.
Nathan and Olwen were in March, I think.
I'm pretty sure it was early March.
Okay.
Just before Cyclone Pam.
Marcia was in later February.
Was it?
Like in 19th of February, I believe, is when it made landfall.
Alright. We also have 2 tornado warnings in effect in Texas right now.
Want me to go read them off really quick?
Well, they're just affecting some areas there in the northern part of Texas. A significant cell moving through to the northwest of Amarillo. I think we'll leave it at that. The US team will pick up anything that happens there. I think. Hopefully. But there we are. We're looking at the 2 cyclones right now. Trevor, which is due to make landfall pretty soon. The Bureau of Meteorology expect maybe 11 o'clock local time. we think it could be much sooner than that, in the next hour or two. And Cyclone Veronica will take a bit longer to get there. To reach the coast of Western Australia, it will probably make landfall in about 24 hours or a bit less than that.
Let's see, while we're here, I'm going to put up the view of meteorology. Just so we can look at the checks here. You can see category 4 severe cyclone Veronica on Australian scale, and also category 4 Trevor. Let's go to Trevor first, since it's the most recent to make landfall. Well, it's going to make landfall the first here.
To the first one.
Say. Yeah. You can see category 4 currently on an Australian scale. Forecast to make a landfall is a category 4 on Australian scale at around 10 a.m. On the 23rd Australian time. And go over and weaken and possibly meander around in southern Australia, and likely weaken and die off hopefully there. Veronica, to go back to Veronica here, just so we can see what it looks like again. Veronica looks like it's expected to make maybe a category 3 or 4 landfall on an Australian scale, just west of Port Hedland by the looks of it, on March 24th here. And it's expected to kind of meander around or maybe possibly stall in this general region, and then looks like move on west and hopefully out of the area quickly.
Alright, here's the latest image of Cyclone Veronica. It's continuing to move towards a generally south direction. The eye's clearing out a bit, but there's not really an eye wall for it. Signs of strengthening though, Isaac, maybe?
I'm gonna look at it again. I don't know. I'm gonna say it's maybe trying to maintain
only a little bit.
Here.
Only a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it could get back to category 3 on the Saffir-Simpson scale, is my point. And that could make quite a big difference from category 2 to category 3 if it makes landfall near, hopefully not, near one of these towns. I mean, with an eye, quite a big eye that's starting to appear now, it's sort of looking as though it's either going to be Port Hedland or Carratha that gets some pretty miserable conditions from this storm.
I'm just looking at a microwave pass from actually about an hour ago. It does show one eye wall by the looks of it. There might be a tad, might be an inner eye wall, but for the most part one eye wall around the system currently. So if it did go under an eye wall, if it was placement cycle, it's likely completing it now currently. So just something of note there.
Have you got that imagery?
I can pull it up on my laptop really quick here.
If it's worth it.
Yeah, it passed over the entire CDO, which is good.
All right, yeah, let's
for
see
once. Just bear with me a moment here while my older computer loads.
We're just looking at this imagery again.
Yeah, if anybody in the chat has any comments or questions or concerns, we'll be here, I think, till the end of the hour, right, Nathan?
Yeah, another 15 minutes here.
Yeah, so if you have any questions or wanted to ask any questions, ask them while we're still alive and able to communicate with you over the stream.
And if you get here late and watching on repeat or anything like that, you can, of course, send your messages to us on social media, Force13 on Facebook and Twitter. We'll get back to your messages. I know there's one waiting for me already, which I'll get back to pretty soon, but I can tell you on the air for free. Well, I could even send you the message for free too, but at least no expense of time. That the Cyclone Joaninha will not strike Mauritius, although it could deliver some modest amounts of rainfall.
And here's the microwave, image. About here.
I mean, it tells us pretty much what we've seen on the infrared. It's a spiral. It's not a central, you know, we talk about the donut-shaped eye walls. It's not that at all. It's a spiral that we're looking at here, and a system that's going to seemingly forever going to struggle to get itself together and won't strengthen that much unless it can close off that eye wall.
Exactly. If it can't, it's going to have a rough ride over the next few hours here. Hopefully it'll weekend. So that'll be great news. I'm going to go look at Trevor while I'm here as well and see if we got a good microwave pass or just like a side swipe of it. While that's loading, I'm going to go back to rapid scan of Veronica here. You can quite easily tell. Looks to be trying to clear out that eye. Whether it fully clears out that eye or not, we'll see here. We update it here. Wait, later frames. Yeah, it does appear to be trying to clear that eye, but not quite exactly here.
Well, it's getting there. It's halfway through now.
Yeah, the only really the southern part I would say is kind of cloudy here. I've yet to see visible, so I don't know what that looks like at this point. And yes, finally they got a good pass of Trevor here from about 2 hours ago, which is still quite recent.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I can see there.
That's interesting.
The C safe there, the cookie safe. You can see, I'm guessing this is part of the concentric eye wall that was in there for the longest time.
That red area is like a hand.
Yeah. It's...
I'm sorry, I just had to make that observation.
It's certainly an oddity, I can tell you that.
Anyway.
But yeah, here's Trevor here.
You know, it's like when you get two fingers in a sort of...
Oh, well, I don't know what it did there. Oh, okay. I guess Trevor just wants to say goodbye.
Yeah, well, how long do you think it is now till landfall? Let's see if we can get a distance estimate here.
Go back to right there. Radar.
Alright, we're all looking at Trevor now. These are both Trevor, aren't they? And I'm just trying to get the imagery here on my machine as well to try and get your latest distance estimate. Earlier it was 33 miles. And in a minute I'll be able to tell you what it is now. But I can't tell you yet because it hasn't loaded. So we'll leave you with this imagery here.
There you go. There's Veronica. Trevor on the right, Veronica on the left. See if this is the track there.
I'm just laughing at some of the messages our team member Nelson is putting into the chat there. Well done. We're here for just another 10 minutes or so before we finish up. We will of course have regular updates on the Force 13 channel. If you've never come across us before, just search Force 13 on YouTube and subscribe. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter, all in text, Force 13. You can of course join our Discord server as well. The link is at the bottom of the description if you're watching us live, and we're happy to have you if you do decide to join us. It's the best way to get involved in our project, and I think Ryan did that.
Yeah.
Just an example, Ryan did do that as well. Latest imagery.
I did what?
You joined the project through Discord, didn't you? Our chat room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's a great way to get involved.
Okay.
It's a great way to start.
All right.
20 miles is now the difference from the centre of Trevor to the Gulf of Carpentaria coast. So that's 10 miles in, 13 miles in an hour, isn't it? When did we last do our check?
I don't know.
Okay, let me see what it was the previous hour here. So it's moving at about 13 miles an hour, and it's moving southwest. So I would say landfall here, Isaac, considering I'm looking at 30-minute-old imagery, maybe an hour's time.
And we're 10 minutes till the end of the hour here. So 30 minutes time, so about 6:40 my time. I don't know what that'd be Australian time. I think 7:20 their time in the morning. I'm not mistaken.
Question: what can Borroloola expect from Trevor? It's on the western side, which I think everyone here would agree is the weaker side. Someone said earlier that the forecast only had 37-mile-an-hour winds for Borroloola. Isaac, surely you wouldn't agree with that, would you? Borroloola's just on the left-hand side of your radar image there.
Oh yeah, right here. 30-mile-an-hour winds.
37 miles an hour on the forecast,
37.
apparently. It's moving southwest. It's going to get a lot worse than that.
Yeah, it's just look. They're gonna get hit by the outer eyewall by the looks of it here. So it's 37 miles an hour. I mean, if it weakens that fast, sure, but
No, not a
I don't
chance.
think so.
Not with its,
I don't think
not
so.
with its speed of movement. Maybe if it was stalling, but well, even that. You know, we've seen stalling storms along the coast here not very long ago, Owen, that have strengthened.
And there you go, and with the blue marker, I marked Barhola there.
They just don't weaken that quickly round there.
Let's go back to the other radar for Veronica here. Eyewall getting closer. Outer band starting to be felt by the looks of it. Just west of Port Hedland by the looks of it on radar. Central Island looks like they're starting. They might be getting the outer eyewall here, at least on the eastern side of the island. That is. So somebody was saying it's the inner eyewall, Trevor's inner eyewall trying to come back here. I don't know exactly, but on the latest frames, it looks like it has. But it could be, like I said, due to the distance it is away from radar, because there's not that many good radars around this general area, and this is the closest one to Trevor, rather. So it could be just radar interference, or it could be just the inner eyewall still there, just not able to be shown that well enough on radar because of its distance here. So hopefully that answers your question there.
Yeah, I think so. Let's just get another look here at the latest imagery. This is what Trevor is looking like on the latest frames. It's approaching landfall. Looks like it's going to happen in an hour. We're probably going to produce another update on Trevor in an hour's time. And then we'll probably do another update on Veronica shortly after that here on Force 13. Those are going to be recorded updates because we're going off the air shortly after our 3-hour stint here. You'll be able to catch up on at least 2 of those 3 hours which have been recorded here when they get published shortly after the fact. But really there's not too much else to say right now. I guess we'll reread the warnings that are currently in effect. So we've got a cyclone warning which extends from Aliangula to Burketown for Trevor, of course. That includes all points in between Numbulwar, Port Roper, Port MacArthur, the Northern Territory Queensland border, and Mornington Island. And it covers places further inland as far as Brunette Downs and Cape Crawford. Not quite as far as Tennant Creek, but it's awfully close. And for Cyclone Veronica, warnings in effect from Wallal Downs in the east to Mardi in the west. Let's just get these up on the graphics again here because this is probably the most important takeaway point. So first of all, there is the track for Trevor with the warning zone, and this here is Veronica. Warning zone includes Marble Bar. If you missed that earlier, it does now include Marble Bar. And the watch zone extending further inland to Nullagine, or Nullagine, I'm not sure which way that one is. And Port Hedland and Carratha, of course, well within that warning zone, and it would appear to me increasingly that one of them is going to, as David would put it, cop it. David, are you here right now? We just wanted to see if we could get a final word, but I don't think we do. Isaac, Ryan, any final points before we finish up here?
Well,
I
stay
am here,
safe.
but I've got the grandson watching cartoons, so apology for the background noise. But Nathan, looking at some of the observations for Trevor.
I mean, we really need to get an undercover crew coming round to David's house one day and film him doing his grandparenting.
Yeah, I've got the grandson
David
on
Uncut.
my knees. He's watching cartoons.
There we go. Go on, you were saying.
Observations, 1,000 millibars at Mornington Island. I've posted a couple of the links in the room here. And landfall, I think the eye's now impacting the
Yes.
northwest coastal region. And you mentioned about the miles. I worked out about 60 miles. And
16 miles?
Well, I did say about 60, but you
60.
mentioned 16. Yep.
For Trevor?
But now...
About 20 miles now.
Yep.
So there we go. David, any other thoughts that any other words of advice that you'd like to give to people over there? Because of course you know Australia much better than we do.
Well, going by the warnings in the Northern Territory, road travel is going to, well, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Avoid travelling. And for Veronica, the same. About 30,000 people. But we'll be here tomorrow, won't we, Nathan, covering this one?
Yes,
Veronica.
we're going to have regular updates. The main channel will have updates on these two storms as they approach land. I assume, David, you'll be doing updates on Force 13 AU.
Yes, well, my grandson departs here in about half an hour.
You can't wait.
Fully operational. And I will be producing updates for the main channel and also the AU channel. And keeping an eye on severe thunderstorm possibility for... well, quite a bit of the Australian continent.
Yeah, of course. So if you've not followed the Australian channel yet, you can do that also. Force 13 AU, look it up. Thank you very much to Isaac and Ryan for also joining us, as well as David, for this big event. And we'll have more coverage during the night tonight, my time at least, during the day in Australia and beyond. Whatever we need to do to keep you up to date. That's all from here at Force 13 HQ and from the team. We'll see you again soon. Take care.
Take care.